All right, welcome class. Today we're going to learn about natural selection and evolution. Last time we talked about the Industrial Revolution, and we're kind of skipping from history to biology to tell you a story that involves both history and biology. Some important terms for today. We're going to talk about natural selection, evolution, organisms, populations, species, heritable, genetic variation, mutation, sexual reproduction, competition, fitness, survival, predator, prey, antibiotic resistance, pollution, and generations. So real quick, let's get started with what is natural selection. So natural selection is a process in nature where some organisms in a population are selected for or against by certain natural forces. And these natural forces can be anything from predators or resource availability like food or water to natural disasters. So if you see on the right the picture of the different finches, so each of those finches came from a common ancestor, but selection of food caused the different populations of finches to grow different kinds of beaks depending on what they needed to eat. If an organism is selected for, it's going to tend to produce more offspring. So in this case, with number 1, that population of birds, the birds with the larger, thicker beaks were better able to eat whatever food they ate than the birds with the smaller beaks in that area. And so the birds with the smaller beaks then were selected against. But in the case of like bird number 4, the population in that area, smaller beaks were selected for. And so the birds that survived were able to, we would say that they had a higher fitness. They survived it long enough to be able to produce offspring. So let's talk about genetic variation real quick, because we can see with those birds that all those beaks are different sizes, and that's all due to genetics. Those beak sizes are passed down to the offspring, and in order for those changes to happen, we need to talk about mutations in DNA. So one base pair flipping to another base pair, or an entire section of DNA getting chunked out. And all of these changes in the genes create real life consequences. So you flip one base pair in your DNA and suddenly your beak's larger, right? And then you can catch different kinds of food. So we talk about that as DNA, mutations in DNA having an effect on fitness. And in this case, we're just talking about one single organism. So if a mutation causes an organism to have that higher fitness, that mutation in that gene, that brand new genetic code will be selected for by these natural selection effects. So one thing that gets students very confused a lot of the time is, do organisms evolve? Like, do you evolve? Do I evolve? No, when we're talking about evolution, it's just to do with species. We have mutations, individuals can have mutations, so let's take a look at what might happen if an organism has a favorable genetic mutation. So over here, favorable genetic mutation can lead to an increase in fitness for that organism. Now, mutations generally don't do this. Most of the time, genetic mutations are bad, but every once in a while, they can result in an increase in fitness. And then that leads to, because there's an increase in fitness, the organism has more children, more offspring from that organism. And so in the next generation, the new population, which has more offspring from this organism, is acted on by natural selection. The offspring with this genetic mutation that got passed down are going to outcompete the other organisms in the population because they have higher fitness. And so gradually, through generation and generation, we get an increase in the population of this genetic mutation. And eventually, what might happen if this new population can't breed with other populations of the same species, we might classify it as a new species, and that is evolution. So just to go over that one more time, mutations act on individuals, selection acts on populations, and evolution happens to whole species. Okay, you're going to watch a video by the Amoeba Sisters next with some annotated questions. And then we'll start connecting this all to the Industrial Revolution. Okay, good luck.